Okay, I want to talk about something that's kind of a sensitive topic, and it is this notion of reverse discrimination. And what I'd like for folks to do is to not go to the emotional place, but I do want to engage your emotions. But I want you to. We'll come back to the emotions in just a second. But I want you to engage your mind and your thoughts, right? So a lot of times when people talk about reverse discrimination, they have a lot of emotions, and there are stories that people can tell that that I want us to be thoughtful of. So take those stories at face value, but I want you to filter them through some logic, so to speak, right? So you're mindful and not just emotionally responding to the stories that people want to share. And so one thing to kind of think about, right? So let's look at some of the arguments for reverse discrimination and in some cases like the xenophobia, right? The fear of others, the outsiders, right? So first and foremost is this idea that the others are coming to take my stuff, right? So those people are coming to take my job. Sometimes you'll hear that, right, as a rationalization for this concept of reverse discrimination. And what I'd like for you to think about is simple. This is a simple argument, right? If the job was filled, those people, those outsiders, could not take the job because it's already filled. It's already filled, right? So there is that part of the argument. The other thing that I want you to kind of recognize is that there is an abundance of opportunities for the creation of jobs. Just 15 years ago, Uber did not exist. Just 15 years ago, it didn't exist. Right, the market. I don't know if you've seen the rise in these these delivery places for food. Right, you can actually get a personal shopper to go to your favorite, if whether it's Walmart or Target or Macy's, you can go online and hire someone to shop for you and deliver those things to your door. There's an abundance of opportunity, right, for innovation, particularly in this great country. So to relegate those jobs only to a particular group of people, or say that they're the reason that things are so bad, is not quite the full truth, right? So that's something to remember. Another thing to remember to kind of offset this idea of this reverse discrimination is that people will say, well, it is because of programs like affirmative action that I've not been able to A, get a scholarship, B, get a job, so forth and so on. People will say those kinds of things. And what I would like to suggest is that I feel the emotions that people have. I have compassion and sympathy for that. But in many cases, they're not willing to confess the truth about their engagement, right? And so typically I do this exercise when I'm in a classroom with folks, whether it's a lecture or a diversity session or even sometimes one-on-one, right? And so I ask them what percentage. So let's look at this affirmative action thing. So there are no quotas, and that's the law, right? So you can't have a quota. So you can't say, I'm not going to fill this position until I get XXX or YYY, whatever, right? Type of person. So there are no quotas. There are goals, but we'll talk about that later. So what percentage of folks would you say is a part of, are holdback positions in an affirmative action plan? So you have 100% of the workforce. How much of that would be a holdback for, say, an affirmative action program? And people typically say, 25. Some folks have had, said 10 or maybe even 5%, right? And so we'll take that. Let's take the 10% because that's kind of the middle space, right? So if there is a holdback, so to speak, for 10% of the population that we're going to hold this for this special group, right? That's how people use those terms for this special group. That means that there's an availability of 90%. Right? So there's 90% availability. So for these people who talk about reverse discrimination, the truth does not come out about their abilities, because what they're saying is that I did not get in because of this 10%. Well, the truth may be more harsh than that. The truth may, in fact, be that they could not compete with the 90%, and so they blame the 10% for not being able to. So the fault actually isn't in the 90% or the 10%. The failure or the lack thereof may be sitting in their own seat as they go to try to judge these things, right? And so how do we help those folks who look at the world from being disadvantaged or having these affirmative action programs hurt them or scholarships hurt them? Well, first of all, we have them look at their own skills, their abilities, and secondly, we listen to what they have to offer. We listen to the hurts. We listen to those pain points for them, and we help them try to work through those opportunities. This is a land of opportunities where if you work hard, you get merits, and you can advance. And so what we recognize is that many of these programs are designed to even an uneven playing field. And some people will say, well, I'm being disadvantaged by the leveling of this playing field. Well, recognize that this balance is a unique and a tricky, nuanced way in which we're trying to approach this. And so when we get to a point where we don't have to fill out race as a category on our census, when we get to a point where statistically men and women are in top leadership positions, paid the same across industries, when we get to that, these kinds of programs will no longer be necessary. And that time is coming where these types of programs, where we talk about trying to balance these things, will not be in existence. What we know here at Mayo Clinic, that it wasn't until the 70s that we hired Black physicians. And so we have over 150-year history. And so is it that there weren't Black physicians? No, there were Black physicians throughout the United States, but we just weren't purposed to make that a reality here at the clinic. And now we're a world-renowned clinic with folks from all over the world, and it is because we've made that commitment to diversity and inclusion that we have become such a robust treatment facility that has the best minds in the world helping us to stay as the #1 hospital in the United States. And so when we think about diversity and inclusion, and we think about this reverse discrimination, we have to not let that cloud what we know to be true, that diversity is a strength, particularly here at Mayo Clinic.